The journal entry existed before the arrest. Why had no one found it during the investigation? I wasn't sure what to believe at first. Then 5 months later, she announced they were engaged and told me I needed to start calling Brandon daddy. That's when I became convinced my father was innocent. That's also when it started. Brandon got comfortable. He began staring at me at the dinner table, making comments about how fast I was growing up, how I was becoming such a pretty young woman. My mother thought it was sweet. When I told her for the first time that Brandon made my skin crawl, she called me dramatic. She must have told him what I said. Because that night, while she slept, he came into my room. He grabbed my wrist hard enough to leave marks and told me what happens to girls who snitch. I was terrified, and I knew I couldn't trust my mother with any of it, so I kept a secret. I began writing letters to my father. I hid them between textbook pages and mailed them from my friend's house after school. Dad wrote back through the prison email system to an account I had created without my mother knowing. It became the only thing that felt real. Then one Thursday, everything got worse. I came home from school to find out my mother had changed my last name on all school records to Brandon, without telling me, without asking me. You'll thank me when you're older, she said. That night, Brandon came into my room to celebrate us being a real family. He sat on my bed, he put his hand on my thigh and said I should be grateful to have a father who cared. I pushed him off and locked myself in the bathroom until he finally left. I wrote to my father about that night. The letter he sent back came on real paper and parts of it were damp and warped, like he had been crying while he wrote it. That nearly broke me. The one thing keeping me going was his upcoming birthday. I asked my mother if I could visit him, just for a few minutes, just that one day. She said no. Worse than no, actually. That same weekend, Brandon had car show tickets and expected us all to go together. He had specifically requested adjoining hotel rooms. When I said I would rather visit my father, my mother exploded. Brandon backhanded me across the face while she stood there and said nothing. I was forced to go. That night, while I was asleep, Brandon came in. He was drunk. This time he didn't stop at a warning. I traveled home feeling like something inside me had been permanently damaged. The week we returned, my mother found the hidden letters. She burned them in the backyard. As punishment for contacting my father, she removed my bedroom door from its hinges for what she called monitoring purposes. Brandon treated it as an invitation. He would stand in the doorway at night and watch me sleep. That was my breaking point. Next day, I snuck into the school library after hours and sent my father's prison counselor, the DDA, an email that must have been an hour long and made very little sense. I rambled about everything. I didn't even know what I was asking for. I was too numb to want anything specific. 2 weeks later, I got a reply. Lengthy. Careful. He told me everything was going to be okay. But one line stood out above everything else. Did you check where I said? I went back through every email my father had ever sent me, and I found it. In one of the more recent ones, he had told me to go up to the attic and look behind the radiator. I had read that email the day after asking my mother if I could visit him for his birthday. I had been too heartbroken to read it carefully and had missed it entirely. I waited until the next date night. When the house was empty, I climbed into the attic with a flashlight, hand shaking. Behind the radiator was a plastic-wrapped journal. I opened it to the page my father had marked. It was dated weeks before his arrest. In his handwriting, it read, "It's been a few weeks since I caught Lauren and Brandon sneaking off into the bar together. I don't know how to confront her." I sat there absorbing what that meant. Then I heard a car pulling into the driveway. They were back early. She burned his letters. She took the door. She had no idea what was in the attic. Subscribe for part 2.